All right, guys. So far you started out with just kind of an overview of the Cold War and just how it's kind of U.S. versus USSR. We went over the Berlin Wall, and then you guys went on and you took a look at Truman Doctrine and Marshall Plan to see kind of how Europe was shaping up after World War II. And that's kind of where we left off. So, we learned about the Berlin Wall and we talked about how, it was really just an attempt to make sure that communists weren't able to escape from Eastern Berlin into Western Berlin. And you start thinking, well, this seems like kind of a strange plan. Who is doing this? And this lesson is designed to kind of really start talking about who is doing this kind of stuff. So who's leading this communist kind of lifestyle, and who's the figurehead, and what are some things that are going on with them that maybe kind of inform these policies and these things that happen. So today we're going to talk about Joseph Stalin, who is going to be the leader of Soviet Russia until his death. And he's going to go a long way toward establishing what the Soviet Union will be, and what their identity is moving forward well after his death. So here we go. So Stalin's deal, he's one of the most ruthless and violent dictators in world history for sure, and that's an easy one. Um, I mean, you don't like to start comparing, but he's killed plenty of people as compared to, say, an Adolf Hitler, who you guys are, always most familiar with. Holocaust, somewhere between 8 and 12 million Jews, on top of the other people that, might have died at his hands during the course of warfare. Stalin killed as many as 20 million of his own people. Just because he wanted to change the way farming worked. So just to give you an idea about, what kind of guy this is and what his reputation is. He's, like we said, the unquestioned leader of the Soviet Union until his death in 1953. He's going to execute political opponents. I mean, you disagree with him, you disappear in the night, or you get thrown in a gulag, which is a jail in northern Siberia, and you just freeze to death. So this guy is not the nicest human being ever. Um, there's a story about when his first wife dies, he is said to have, he's been quoted as saying, like I'm paraphrasing, my last hope in humanity is gone and there's nothing but darkness in my heart. So this guy, he wasn't the nicest guy. He's going to use a group initially called the NKVD. This will eventually become known as the KGB, which some of you may or may not have heard of. But they basically amount to Stalin's secret police, and they're like basically his hit squad. So anytime he needs someone to disappear or someone kidnapped or someone eliminated, it's the NKVD and later the KGB that would do this kind of stuff. Some of their most famous use was after Lenin's death. There was a little bit of a power struggle about who would lead Soviet Russia after Lenin, and the choices were Stalin and a guy named Leon Trotsky. And long story short, this internal power struggle was run by Stalin, but he was very fearful of Trotsky and that Trotsky would eventually rally support and kind of, and try to overtake him again. So, and Trotsky knew this. He was in danger. So Trotsky fled. He ran away to Mexico City, which, if you get a hold of a globe, and a globe is useful for this, Mexico City is basically on the other side of the planet from Moscow. You can't get any farther away on Earth, almost. And Trotsky ran away all the way to there. That's how afraid he was of Stalin. Well, Stalin sent the NKVD, and the NKVD found him in Mexico City and assassinated him. So the reach is literally global, and they are absolutely ruthless. The KGB has a long and storied history, bordering on legitimate, arm of the government and hit squad, essentially. Your boy Putin, who president of Russia now is ex KGB. Um, Look, Stalin's an ugly human being, and there's no denying that. But it should be noted that he did make some attempts, at the very least, to kind of modernize Russia, propel them into the modern era, and improve industrial production, military capacity, the economic base. Make big changes to agriculture. Now, we mentioned that a lot of that resulted in some serious damage to his own people in the form of mass death in the numbering in the millions. But just so we understand, what he was trying to do is he was trying to bring the Soviet Union into the modern era through industrial and economic development, and he had a bunch of what's called 5-year plans. So, if anything we need to know about Stalin, what he did kind of domestically inside the Soviet Union, is really limited to 5-year plans. These are kind of different 5-year blocks of time during which he would focus the country's attention and production on a certain aspect of society. So, one 5-year plan for the military, one for agriculture, one for industry, and there's the list goes on. Under normal circumstances, we kind of break all this down together, but for time's sake, we're going to keep it to this. So, listen, today's just trying to figure out who is this Stalin guy, what is he all about. So, this is the mini lesson. When you guys move on to the activity, there's really two aspects of it. You're going to do a little bit of biographical work on him. There's a document attached there. Because a lot of this time, if we look at people's past, and you guys have seen this, when we look at people's past, it kind of tells us it explains very clearly why they end up the way they end up often. Okay, so that's an important exercise. So the first part of this is that. Then I'm going to actually have you guys watch a pretty good video from Discovery that really goes over a lot of Stalin and what he did. And the second half of the worksheet is on that, and I will link that to you also. So you guys are all set with that. I'll be around if you need me, and get me on Google Classroom, right? Later.